Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pass the Syrup, the agency podcast. We always have three great agents on. Not entirely true. Occasionally we only have two, but today we have got three great agents. We're going to chew the fat on things based around estate agency. If you're an agent, this is valuable for you, but hopefully more than that, it's slightly entertaining. Today we are joined by Adam McKay, Sharon Kaur, and Enzo Giardina. Look at that, guys. I've knocked it out of the park. All three pronounced correctly. Good morning. How is everyone today?
Yeah, very well.
Good, thanks.
Buzzing.
Make the same joke every week. It's my favorite bit of the podcast when I ask everyone how they are. And it's awkward when you're on Zoom and three people have got to answer at once. Everyone's sort of polite. Should I go? Do you want to go? Who's going to say what? So let's crack on. Let's get straight into it. Adam, We're going to come to you first. What are we talking about today?
Agents. I've had a few meetings this week, consecutive, which really got me thinking that some agents just don't want to give the bad news and the honest advice. One resulted in me turning down the listing. Another one, I couldn't believe how many, she's gone for 3 agents over 2 years, how much bad advice, and no one had mentioned pound per square foot data. So that's my subject.
Yeah.
You guys seeing this? Sharon, Enzo, is this a common theme? Agents giving out bad advice in other areas of the country?
Yeah, it is regular. You just wonder how people fall for it, or can't think for themselves sometimes.
This particular client has been through 3 agents, some big names as well, and not one of them had talked about price per square foot. The owner had a certain price in mind, but none of them have justified why it's wrong. And just took the property on, mentioned price reductions, but haven't given any method behind it. So I'm lucky enough. I worked with Simon Gates, and he did us a fantastic report, which is here in January, looking for 5-year stats in our core area. And I'm just all the team. Oh bloody hell! Someone just turned it on. All the team are using it in every pitch, every price reduction conversation, because it's actually showing price per square foot data, how many transactions, the difference between price per square foot on the market, exchanged, last year's sales, completions, and it's been like gold since January, since he produced it over Christmas for us. So I just, yesterday I sat with a lady up here and I just couldn't believe, like, she was like, "Is my house saleable?" I said, "Yes, but you're 75 grand too much money." The data's all pointing towards it. I haven't even been in your home yet. She popped in the office just asking me, "So could you sell my house?" I was like, "Yeah." But
Adam, from a context perspective, she's £75,000 out. As a percentage of the asking price, how far out is she?
This is quite a lower an average price of what we sell for. She's only selling at 450, but it's way out. Like it's way out.
Yeah, 75 or 450 is a bit of a chunk.
And she said, "Would you take it on?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll take it on, but we need to have a presentation review of how you're presenting the property, because the photos are terrible. How she's presenting the property, she's not been given any help." And then just looking at the price data, I said, like, the max you should be worth is 400, but you're probably worth in the current state and how the market's looking at it, 360.
I think it's really interesting when you speak to a client and you're like, you're £75,000 out, and they're like shocked that you're being so honest.
Yeah.
And it's like, why wouldn't we be honest? Like, we've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, but Sharon, the problem with that is, do you know why people are shocked that we're so honest? Because the vast majority aren't.
Yeah.
Like I like to think on this podcast, we only have good operators. Like I've really tried just to give voices to really good agents who say the right things, do the right things, because that has a really positive impact on the industry. But actually, if the consumer has built this idea up in their mind, they've created a stereotype. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Like it's about past experiences. It's about internal bias that's created because of your experiences or something. Your friends and your families, your friends and your family. How often do you hear a really positive story about a estate agency? Like, how often does someone, I know people don't go to the pub anymore, but occasionally I do, and someone says, "Had an amazing experience with my estate agent." You just don't. And I appreciate people aren't inclined to go, for a positive story. It's 10 times more likely people are going to tell the negative story because it's venting and getting stuff off your chest. But you just don't hear that many great stories about agents, and that's why they're surprised when the few that do actually tell the truth. I think.
But Ben, what was interesting, I said, what made you come and see me? And I'd met her at a networking event about 7 years ago, briefly, when I tried BNI for a quick period of time. And she said, after Christmas, we'd had the bad experience for the third agent, and we were sitting there, and my husband said, why don't you go and see Adam Mackay? And she was like, oh, I've met him once before. She goes, yeah. And he said, I think I met him 10 or 12 years ago at a cricket club annual dinner. And I sat next to him, and he seemed a bit more dynamic and seemed to understand marketing a bit better. So literally 12 years ago, I look back, it was 12 years ago, and he referred me to his wife to come in here. So it's strange.
So this is a rabbit hole, but we've got time. We've got time. Why did they choose? Why do you think they chose the three other agents? Bearing in mind they've met you in a social setting, and they know the quality of your business, your brand, your local credibility is right up there. But they've picked three other agents over a period of 2 years. Why do you think those other agents got the call?
Well, I asked after the question, sat here, we had a coffee, and she said, well, Adam, the village it's in is a neighbouring village to my town. Literally, I could run there if I wanted to the house. She said, most agents who sell in that village are in Bishop Stortford, not Sawbridgeworth. And I said, well, that's her perception, obviously. I didn't know she even owned a house there. Do you know what I mean? She inherited it. And she said, you tend to sell the nicer ones. And so I said, well, that is true, but I would be more than happy to help you out. And she said all the other fees she'd been charged is 1%, 0.75%. She walked out of here agreeing a 2% fee. And she's going to drop the price by 50 grand. Well, we're going to represent. So, I said to her, you should have come to me first. We'd have had it sold by now. Like 2.5 years ago, it'd have been easy to sell.
Honestly, Adam, she's going to be on some sort of depressant relief with you. She's chipped 75 grand. She's doubled her fee, and you told her you'd have sold it 6 months ago. I mean, you're giving her all the good news. Like that's exactly what I mean. You're right.
So about 6 months ago, it's pretty bad 6 months ago. I don't think I would have sold it 6 months ago.
Well, yeah, maybe not. But it happens so often. So I can speak from personal experience. Our model is we like to be the first choice second agent.
Yeah.
I'm using that phrase. That phrase I coined from someone called Joe Perry, really good agent down in Wales. And he talks about his business and how they do. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what we do. But you've just found a really great way to articulate it, because there's so much bad information and bad advice thrown around. It is difficult, isn't it? When, if you were in competition with those three agents and all three of them are saying a valuation £75,000 higher than you, if you're the only one saying £75,000 lower, then you look like the lunatic.
Yeah.
And so
cheaper fee as well, isn't it? And higher valuation, and they're going to go that. A lot of people go that route, won't they?
Yeah. So Sharon Enzo is high price, low fee, because I hear this all the time, but I never ever meet anyone that says, oh yeah, we're high price, low fee. Everyone always says all my competition overvalue and undercharge, but no one ever admits to it. Is it happening up in both your areas of the world?
Sharon?
I would probably say it does happen, but it's only like a couple of agents. So if I know that they've been out, I kind of know what the strategy is before I'm speaking to the client. Whereas I just think there needs to be an honest, fair, medium kind of guidance on it. I mean, up north, the prices are always very different, and the agency fees are very different as well, as we're all tight up here. So I think at any point they say it's a lower fee, they're like, yeah, take that, but they don't think about what actually they're getting for the service. But I think up here now, the corporates are kind of dwindling down a little bit. The independents are coming more into touch because it's that service level everybody wants. They're happy to pay a little bit more if they know that they're getting like a bespoke one-to-one service. So there's definitely a change, I would say. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily people are going for high fees, low fees. It's more the person.
Okay, so that's really positive, actually. Positive direction in travel, that the consumer is maybe starting to appreciate value over cost. What about Huddleston, Enzo?
Yeah, I try not to take anything on that is overpriced, really, because you are wasting time, and ultimately you're on a road to ruin, because you're going to spend months at the high price. You're not going to get no traction. You're not going to get no offers. They're going to get unhappy. They're going to de-instruct, and then eventually they're going to come down to a price that is more realistic. So I'd rather just not waste that time, really, because you put a lot of time and effort into it, and you've got no expectation. You can't give them any real expectation. So I'd just rather say, look, well, this is what I'm worth, and then maybe come in as if they appoint secondary or third down the line. Once they've got a taste of what it actually is out there.
So
That's
do you
what I
ever? So we're like ongoing joke in our business. Do you sometimes you get them wrong though, right?
Yeah, cool.
And with my business partner who does 90% of the valuations in the business, when he gets one wrong, obviously you're not allowed. You can never let him forget it. And he, and he's. I think this is the same approach that we don't want properties that are overvalued. If they want to have a little punt, a little bit over, we could look at a strategy to give that a go. And depending on market conditions, sometimes that works. Needle in a haystack actually exists. We've got some crazy stories right now. In the last 4 weeks, 3 of our competitors have sold properties that we were on a multi, which we don't generally do. It's really strange. But 3 of our current stock have all gone under offer with our competitors and managed to sell them. And there's a lesson in belief here, because we said those 3 are never going to sell. They're priced insanely. And so actually the lesson in belief is our team don't believe we're going to get that price. And so the other businesses have gone out there and done the business. But we call them unicorns. Like you need to find a unicorn to buy this property. And there were 3 in the last month and we didn't find one of them. So sometimes, pricing is tricky. It can be difficult and we get it wrong ourselves. But if it's an intentional, there's a business that we are not necessarily in competition with, but they work in our market, and they're now locking people into 6-month contracts.
Wow,
that's insane. Can you imagine a 6-month contract? In 6 months, it's almost September. Like this, and so they come onto this crazy price, and their strategy is, if you're in the industry, you can see it because you're seeing it happen very regularly. If you're a consumer, you're only interested in your own world and you're not aware of what's going on. But they bring people on at a really inflated price, and then over a period of 6 months, they get them down to the price they need to sell. But I mean, talk about give the industry a bad name. Like these guys are high volume. They're very, very well known high volume business, and it's painful. 6 months.
Yeah, it is painful because you're thinking as a seller, like they can't see what their agent's objective is. Stack it high, reduce, and eventually it's going to find its point. That's it, but it's taking time. Why waste the time? Might as well get there quicker, make it less painful, be in a position to move sooner, get yourself sorted out and moved on.
And what does it do for the consumer's mindset? They're expecting X, and so their onwards is based on expecting X. And so when you come down and you come down and you come down, it completely changes what you can do, how you can do it, when you can do it. Maybe money you're giving to the kids has now just reduced. You promised them they're going to get a deposit or something like this. We're going to free up equity. It's horrendous. So Adam, what you're experiencing is really, really common in London, really common.
And I think it's talking about the 3 prices. A lot of the Australians talk about our price, market value, what it should be worth. And then you've got your unicorn price, and we have a lot of conversations about that with our sellers sometimes, because they talk about a low ball. Is it a low ball? Was that the market price? We just the unicorn price, or the heartstring price. I had an interesting call with an agent actually. He was invited on one of your podcasts today, but he was too busy. I won't mention his name because it's quite a sensitive subject, but you know him then. But he's got a new developer, right, who signed him up on a sole selling rights contract, and he's put 46 properties on the market on Rightmove, Zoopla, doing all the marketing. And then out of the first 6 sales, the developer's trying to claim 5 of the sales, saying they just turned up at site. Where he's doing all the marketing. He's doing literally everything. In fact, he's created over 100,000 clicks to his website pages of the properties in 6 weeks of this year. And he's got a meet. He phoned me this morning saying, "Look, how do you think I should play this meeting?" And I said, there's times that if they are that mindset, you've got to go in there, and they don't understand marketing, do they? They just think people just turned up and drove past the house because they just happened to be driving past. But if you've got proof that you're driving it there, driving traffic to their site, you're due the fee, I think.
Well, listen, Adam, the cynic in me says they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I said to them. They're using you to get Rightmove, and I said you've got to be willing to walk away from it, and say to them, take your own Rightmove account. I'll carry on marketing them, and we'll have to change our fee structure. But it got us on a conversation. The reason why I brought it up is, how many people do drive pasts, and how, from viewers, when you're doing a lot of marketing, because we've had scenarios, we do a lot of social media where in the pre-launch, a client phones up, a friend of mine's buying it, but we've got 60,000 views across social media, and just so happens their friends come out of the woodwork and bought their home. And I think it's a common theme in this office where we keep talking about it. Like, do we need to lock them into sole selling rights and explain it to the consumer, because it's happening too often, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the point you make around social media is that I think it's only going to happen more.
Yeah,
the growth of social media and an agency's ability to leverage that, which more and more agents are getting their head around. It's only going to get more tricky. So yeah, that whilst that is that next time you're on, we'll do that one.
Right, sorry.
we got to move on to our next subject matter, but that is a really interesting one, because somebody else brought up sole selling rights and said it's actually, a lot of agents take the position that it's a dated approach, but they haven't clearly considered the unintended consequences that come with social media and vast marketing campaigns. Yeah. That's really frustrating, because I would like to get into that now, but we won't. Sharon, what you got for us? What are we discussing?
So we're discussing how basically clients think that we should be the knowledge of all. Recently, I've had quite a few clients with flats that are having a problem with the leasehold, obviously with all the increases in the service charges and stuff. And fair enough, they come to us because we're like their first point of call. But then likewise, we're not really in a position to know absolutely everything there is to know about everything and anything. I've got one client that calls me a yellow pages, and I'm like, that's great, but I can only give you like guidance of where to go. And I just think it's really interesting with the leasehold stuff that actually a lot of people are now jumping ship and thinking, right, let's just get rid. But there's not actually anything in place yet, is there, that's actually protecting these clients. And it's quite frustrating because they expect us just to be able to say, well, government are doing this and government are doing that, and that's not the case.
So just for everyone who maybe works in more rural areas and they're more freehold agents and don't have that much going on with leasehold, can you just explain what's happening with leasehold from a cost perspective? Because in our area, the last few years has been pretty insane, actually, with the issues around leasehold, but just an overview of what's going on and what you're experiencing.
So at the minute, I'm experiencing most of our clients who are leaseholders are basically getting doubled in service charges, and some of them are just getting doubled regardless of the size of the apartment, and then others are getting it based on square footage regardless of what areas they might be using or not using, which is obviously quite frustrating if you don't have direct access to like a terrace or something. So yeah, there's a massive jump. So for these clients who are renting and then they thought they were making some money, they're actually just making absolutely nothing now, and it's becoming a bit of a stress and a financial burden on them. So then you again become a counsellor if you're not giving them other advice. So it's just a real mix, and it is quite difficult because as much as like you want to help them, you can't always help them.
Yeah, leasehold is, I mean, extraordinarily tricky. We got an example I spoke about a few weeks ago. Currently got a leasehold property on the market. It's nice, but it's in an area called Brentford, which is just outside London. It's Middlesex, but you'd regard it as West London if you lived in Brentford. But it's not a high value area. It's a nice little area. One of those areas they talk about, it's up and coming, but it's been up and coming for 30 years. It's one of those ones. I'm from Brentford, so I can say
in the Independent when they do the focus.
Say that again.
With like the Independent paper when they do the focus.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, this is it. It should be really popular with like media types. It's one of those, but it's not. It's not trendy yet. It's just up and coming. Anyway, it's 75% of the property in Brentford is leasehold. It's apartments, which is quite strange. Like, that's quite an extreme amount for being so far outside of central London. And so there's been loads of issues over the last few years. Cladding's been a big issue, and that's impacted leasehold and sales of leasehold. And then the leasehold doubling, or costs escalating. We've got an example that we've got on the market right now that we're trying to sell. Their service charge is £1,000 a month. £1,000 a month. That is like
the mortgage isn't even that.
What's the property value, Ben?
Say that again. Sorry.
What's the property value?
900,000 to £1 million, something like that. Insane. You could be in central London. So this development, by the way, it's not brand new. This is 20 years old. For your £1,000 a month, there's no on-site gym, there's no on-site concierge. You don't really know what you're getting for £1,000 a month. You're not getting a lot. Insane. Absolutely crazy that if you think what your mortgage payment's going to be, plus your utilities, you know, your council tax, everything like that, and then you've got to factor in an extra £1,000. I honestly don't know how people would afford to pay that. That's insane. So yeah, it's a real issue, and it will impact the sales market. But in your experience, Sharon, it's now going to impact the lettings market, because landlords are going to give up, and so it will drive down supply in the lettings market, which will drive up pricing, and it will be more bad news, right?
Exactly that in a nutshell.
Well,
it's
summarize
going to
that too
be
quickly.
yeah, it is going to be interesting, because like, I mean, quite a few have come to me and said, oh, we need to have a chat around what we can do and, you know, and work towards selling the properties. And I'm like, I get it. And there's nothing we can do, because ultimately, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Like, there's no point sitting on an asset that it's giving them negative equity in. They need to just move on and probably, hopefully, reinvest the money elsewhere.
And so, obviously, all the other costs are running up as well. Interest rates. So most buy-to-lets are going to be on trackers of some form, or at least a variable, and so they're going to be impacted by what's going on in the world of interest rates. So it's not a great time to be a landlord on leasehold properties, I guess. Are you finding that they're also more difficult to sell now?
100%, because once you start, you can go look at an apartment, can't you, and think, wow, I love this, I want it. But then when you sit down, like you've just explained, and you think, right, where am I pulling out another £1,000 for service charges on top of all the other costs that you have? They're not desirable at all. Like, I mean, you look at them and you think, yeah, they make sense if you're a single person. It's security of being in an apartment block, you know, it does have its positives, but cost perspective, it's not. And there's going to be a lot of flats that are just going to be sat there, you know, just accumulating dust, as you like to say, with no kind of future of selling it unless something changes. But I can't see that happening.
And if you think about those landlords that need the exit, they're going to have to do something quite extreme to get themselves sold, which is going to have quite, you know, depending on, I guess, the volume of, you know, to use Brentford again as the example, if a whole load of landlords decide to exit, if you're looking at a housing stock that's 75% apartments, that has a massive impact on average pricing in the whole area.
Yeah,
and it, you know, the people that own houses in that area, you know, to your point, Adam, about the pound per square foot, we use that loads in our business, but all of that will impact, you know, the 3-bedroom family house will be impacted by how much the leasehold properties are going backwards in terms of pricing. So it's something the government needs to get all over. Sharon, obviously you're an expert, as you already pointed out, you know, everyone's asking you, and you can answer every single question or point them towards someone who can. I know, and I'm going to ask you a question that you can't answer. What's the solution?
That is a question you can't answer. I think obviously something needs to be looked at, doesn't it? Like, they need to really hammer down and look at the costs that are involved. I know there's this whole thing around peppercorn rent, and new leases are now subject to that, but that's not affecting the service charges. I mean, leaseholders aren't stupid, are they? They think, right, we can't increase the ground rent because it's capped, but what we'll do is we'll just increase the service charges. So again, it needs to be looked at. But I get it from a leaseholder's point of view. You know, if their costs are increasing because the cleaners now put their prices up, the electric's gone up, you know, the maintenance,
insurance,
everything, it's gone up. And I mean, let's be honest, no time soon is anything going to come down ever. And I think this is the norm, but it, like you say, it is massively going to impact.
You've got quite a lot of local authority apartments near you, because we've seen a few near to us which have been really low service charge for like 20 years. So the landlords had the benefit of that. And I had a lady come in the office and she was like, I've got a 40 grand bill, because it's owned by the local authority council, and they suddenly thought we need to do the whole lot. I've got to do the stairwells, you know, the roof, the whole shebang. And she's like, I haven't got the 40 grand. I said, well, you have, because you've not been paying the service charge for 20 years. If you'd been paying the service charge of like 125, 150 pound a month, like most people, you've had the benefit of that. You should have saved that money. So she's like,
his bedside manner, I think it needs a bit of work, you know. He's chopping them on price. He's putting the fee up. He's telling them he could have sold it last year.
I didn't say now that, Ben.
You should have been saving that money. You've had the benefit. How dare you come into my office?
Yeah, she actually works for me. She's one of my viewing specialists. She's one of my property. I said, Kim, you've had the money. You've had the money to maintain the building, but you've been living off it, you know. So, but I think I spoke to the solicitor I put her in touch with, and he said it's not far from, you know, Hoddesdon, actually, Harlow, in between where we are, and there's so many only. He said any client looking to buy, you should just tell them not to buy local, ex-local authorities.
We're running out of things to sell people at this rate. Don't buy leasehold. Don't buy
Stay
ex
away from leasehold.
Yeah, buy me.
But don't stay away from leasehold either. I've got some coming to market. Let's not push that out.
Yeah, let's not find the right ones.
Find leads.
Yeah, I'll tell you a bit of a story now. I've got a client, ex-local authority, got 20 properties. Local authority, chuck load of work at it, new roof, all that. Every flat, 25 grand extra cost through section 20. Yeah, and he's like, that's a sizable chunk.
It's mental, isn't it?
And the problem is, he's trying to get rid of them. He's either got to pay for it or knock it off a purchase price.
And they offer a loan, don't they? Most of them. They say, like, you don't have to pay in one lump. We can give you a loan at 7.5% over 10-year period.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Another mortgage.
They're like this. They're like, yes, thank you.
Just what they want.
Everything's a racket, isn't it? Everything's a racket. Where can we make more? Consumerism coming at us.
That's a sizable chunk in it, 20 apartments. Christ.
We had years ago a business I used to work for. We were selling a property in it's Ealing, has Ealing Studios, which used to be quite famous. Different things were filmed there a long time ago. And in I think it was the 50s, they built this Art Deco development, and it was meant to house the people that worked at Ealing Studios and celebrities be there in bits and pieces. Now it's just a nice old development, but it's got the original window frames, and they look beautiful, but they're not fit for purpose, so they got to be replaced. And I'm pretty sure every flat was being hit for between 80 and 100 grand to replace the windows. And I think we had 3 on the market at the time, and none of the 3 people, this is years ago, none of the 3 selling told us this. And then we became aware of it, and straight away, like, well, that's the end of those 3. They're on the KPIs, but when they're not selling, forget it right now. And yeah, people find themselves completely jammed up. Leasehold is seriously high risk, isn't it? It's yeah, but unless you're in Leeds and Sharon's got some available, go see her. They're obviously, there's no risk around them at all.
Most people buy leasehold because they think it's less risk, don't they?
Yeah.
But actually, it's strange.
Risky business. Enzo, big finish. I feel like you've got a list of subjects you want to go through. You seem so confident early on.
Come on.
What you got for us?
No, it's nothing serious. It's frustrating one. Like, for example, we do a lot of rentals. Yeah, we get. I had this other day. I had a phone conversation with my neck. Someone's called up, inquired about a property, registered the details. Fine, we'll process you. We'll get you booked in. The next call to come in was that same person calling, and I see the property, inquiring about it. They didn't know who they're talking to, and it's just like, you're not realising the branding. Like, not just blow our own trumpet, but are you not seeing who you're calling? You not realise it's the same number you're calling.
It sounds like you were going to say, "Do you not know who I am?" There.
No, nothing like that. These are people out the area, so they don't understand. No, but it happens often, and it's even like out of hours. I get the voicemails from inquiries, and I'll get that as well quite a lot. And it's like, you just called and left 2 messages about 2 different properties of ours. Have you not realised they are with the same agency? And I speak to other agents, and they get it as well. And it's just like, people should be able to manage who they're inquiring on.
So, if I could just summarise, it sounds like you're saying that the consumer's stupid.
Yeah, there is an element of that sometimes. Is it not true?
It's because they're so desperate. They're so desperate to find housing and compete. Okay. You know, right? The market's very competitive, isn't it, at the moment?
They're scared and desperate.
They are, and it is worrying. It is. We're getting a lot more people coming into the office now because they're showing their desperation to show themselves, put a face to a name, which I think is quite a good thing to do, really. Yeah. And I've always said that with buyers, like, look, register with me, but go and register down the road. Or if I've got friends out of the area, I say, go and speak to a local agent, build a rapport with them, have them think of you when they're sort of doing a valuation, when they're on the way to evaluation after they finish, rather than putting it out through their CRM or into the portals. You want to be having that conversation with them. The same way we would do it with our vendors. We want to have that rapport. You need to build that rapport with agents, because some stuff it is competition. So that's what I remember
roughly 20 years ago, the advice used to be to a buyer, put on your Sunday best, walk the entire high street, meet every agent, have a good conversation, accept that weekend you're not going to look at everything, but you just want to meet everyone. You want to get your details across. You want to make them like you, make the best first impression. And it's funny how that has gone away, but it's still good agents will still advise friends and family that's the best thing to do. But that's Enzo, when you're saying more people are coming, is that sales, lettings, or both?
Both, but a lot more of the rentals, and you see the desperation. Oh, we've been served notice, rents going up, whatever reasons. So it's a bit concerning because you can see it in their face. You do feel sorry for them, but ultimately there's only so much that we can do. But then some people don't help themselves. They come in not presenting themselves very well, and you're like, you want to help them, but are you going for the best quality candidate, putting it forward to your client when they know there's a ton of tenants out there?
Or they tar you with the same brush as someone who's done something wrong to them in the past, and so they don't approach the situation with respect. They're not trying to build rapport. There's a lack of trust straight away. So, you know, we're all human. If I'm sitting at the desk and you come in and you treat me like an arsehole, probably not going to rush to call you, you know, and that happens all the time, doesn't it? You know, we review our not so actually we don't do that much anymore, but we used to do. Everyone in the business, our old business, would have 2 of their calls reviewed every month, a bit of a mystery shopper exercise, and you can hear it. And it's really hard to be overly critical. But when someone calls in and they're speaking to you in a certain way, it takes the most consummate professional to rise above it and still, you know, not get sucked into. And afterwards, you say, "Well, why didn't you suggest they see that?" And they'll say, "You know why I didn't suggest they see that? Because they're an arsehole." And like, as it happens, do we want them as a tenant? You know, you'd rather not have arseholes in your portfolio. And do we want to hand them to the conveyancing team? You're going to have to manage the sale of this arsehole for the next few months. So you sort of see their point. And I think I've said it a few times. I think the consumer, to an extent, gets what they deserve. Yeah. You know, and they you know, no one wants to hear that, but I think the consumer is the most dishonest person in our world. They never give you the full budget. They're always telling you about these low fees that don't really exist, or they're doing this or doing that. If they were completely transparent with us, I think it'd be easier for agents to be completely transparent with them. Let me ask you, this happened yesterday. Let me see, I'll get the opinion of 3 agents real time. What do you think about this, right? So one of those properties I was talking about, one of the 3 where a unicorn has purchased it, it actually fell through last week, which yeah, we assumed 1 out of 3 probably would fall out. A crazy price. It's on the market at the moment for 2.5 million. It never actually released to market. So the agent we're in competition with, we were both working on it discreetly. It was purchased 4 years ago at 1.95 million. In 4 years, they think the price has appreciated from 1.95 to 2.5. I can tell you it hasn't. That you know, the market hasn't appreciated that much in London over that time frame, anywhere between 9 and 13%, depending on where you're based. But we're working on it discreetly. We're not doing a great deal of damage to the property, to the reputation of the property, to the brand. We're using the discreet marketing tactic to get feedback and to get the price right when we actually release. Anyway, so they sell it and they get 2.5 million cash. And I'm just like, I give up. I clearly haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. So over the weekend, they changed their mind. They pulled out. It's come back to market. It's back available. So we're working on it. So now both businesses are going to release the property to the market and full marketing, full exposure. So we got a lead call in yesterday, and this is what I want your opinion on. The lead called in and said, "Hiya, I'd like to look at this property on Saturday. The availability time I have is 2:45 Saturday afternoon." Yeah, that's fine. Of course, absolutely wonderful. Just want to check that you guys are open, because I called other business. I called them first and asked for that time, and they told me categorically they close at 2 o'clock, so they can't do the viewing. So I'm now calling you guys. If you can do that slot, then I'll absolutely view, because they haven't offered me another time or anything. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. We close at 2 as well, but we'll view all afternoon on a Saturday. We're just physically not in the office from after 2. So we book it in, call the client, let them know we've got this booked. Obviously, we're getting ahead of the curve, because also we're speaking to the client to let them know that X agent has rejected this viewing, but they are aware of the details. The other agent goes crazy. I spoke to that prospective buyer first, the applicant first. I've moved my diary around so I can now fit them in. I can see them at 2:45. I'm going to work late. Oh, you are a hero. So the applicant, the prospective buyer, has said, look, they didn't offer it to me before. He wasn't trying to be helpful. Now I've spoken to you and I've told him that I'm with you guys. He's doing this and he's doing that. I don't really want to see it with him. You guys help me in the first instance. Are we in the wrong for taking that viewing? Is the other agent in the wrong? Like there's because my guys were like, that's cool, right? I'm like, absolutely 100%. We've done exactly what our client wants us to do, and we've booked in someone who wants to see it. The other agent's just clutching at straws, right?
Yeah.
Multiple agencies, it's fair game, isn't it? Like you take the inquiry and you book it in. I think if you weren't if you were just trying to be sneaky behind, if they had sole selling rights or sole agency, that you'd be trying to do something behind their back. But multiple agencies, isn't it?
And the applicant wouldn't be calling you unless they got serviced by the other agent.
Yeah, they had their opportunity to lock them in.
Yeah.
The client who called didn't have to actually say to you, I'd rung the other agent. That's because of pure frustration that they've said, I've rang them, they haven't helped me, so I'm ringing you and you are helping me. So they should put the toys back in the pram and go on and find another buyer.
This is why I hate multiple agencies. Because it just brings more drama to the office, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, we very rarely work on them, but as I said, we had 3 in the last that we've been on for the last couple of months, and this one.
Same. Yeah, and as soon as you take one on, you end up getting a situation like this, don't you? Every time.
But you find it crazy. So the competing brand is a corporate, extraordinarily well-known premium brand. Is it me or is it insane to turn down a viewing because you shut at 2:00?
Insane.
Yeah. Especially on that sort of fee, because with all due respect, how many viewings are you actually going to get on that property?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A handful.
Yeah. Mental. But to your point earlier on, Sharon, this is why I think independent agents are gonna have a good next 10 years.
Yes.
Because we get it. We know what's involved. The age of the corporate, which like all 4 of us, we came up in agency whilst corporates were the dominant species. And I learned my trade a little bit in like a mini corporate, and I've no criticism of the model, but the incentive doesn't work necessarily, doesn't get the best out of people. And that's a perfect example. Like, I just can't imagine any of my guys ever saying, when we close at 2:00.
Right? The question I'd have to you is, what would your team done if they were the first agent and their diaries were full? What would they have done?
Well, I guess there's a few different things. They'd just tried to squeeze it in wherever they could.
Exactly.
So in our world, very normally, we're a small, low volume model. Like, we're not crazy busy at the weekends, but the diary will be full. But it's normally one person in doing all the appointments. But if we find that there's more appointments, someone will just put their hand up and say, "I'll come in and do them." And that, you can't turn them away.
It's a big fee on the carrot on the end of the stick, isn't it? But
I mean, huge fee. And I think we're quite lucky. We've got a team of people that care about what they do, and they can care for whatever reason they want, whether it's making more money, whether it's a little bit of ego, they want to be the best, or but they care. We haven't got anyone who goes through the motion. And I think that's in a bigger corporate environment, you can find those characters that creep in that are not that fussed about being there, and then you lose out on this. So well, I don't want this to be a brag, but the fee on that is about 50 grand, isn't it? So that's a very sizable chunk of money that if this ends up being the buyer, all they had to do was say, I'll work for an extra 45 minutes.
Yeah, we'll find someone else to do the viewing in the team. Do you know what I mean? Like, just say yes, and worry about booking it in after. I would say to my team on the multiple agency, you just say yes.
You never say no. Exactly. Yeah.
Say yes. Yeah, just say yes and work out how we're going to do it then.
Yeah, exactly. You book in the time and you figure it out after.
Yeah, you don't have to.
It's not like you're. You can make it work.
But it's well, maybe it's lesson learned. If you lose a 50 grand fee, you like to think it doesn't happen twice, But well, I won't go on about it. But I'm fairly certain the person who rejected the appointment is in a senior role in that office as well. Really? So you can't forgive it, can you? You can't forgive it.
They're going to buy it as well. They're going to buy it.
Well, that's what we're saying. If that ends up being the buyer,
it was posted. But that is the difference between corporate and independence. Like for me, for example, if I've got a weekend off scheduled in advance, then you've got a listing coming available, then you know you're earmarking that day for viewings, your team's really busy, you're going to have to play around with it, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the nature of the beast. You have to sometimes. It's not ideal, but business is business, especially at the moment. It's not like instructions are sort of coming thick and thin, especially stuff that's moving. So you need to be flexible.
But the other thing is that, you know, most people work 9 to 5. So most of the vendors, they've got jobs, right? So if we're working 9 to 5, they're working 9 to 5. Where is the flexibility? Like in a corporate, you're never getting it. You're never getting it. You know, I quite happily do like move-ins or key handovers around what works for them. So what's the difference of like you say, an hour? There's no difference in an hour, 45 minutes. And at least then you get that little bit of like, you know, praise from it, and they'll be like, oh, you know, down at Golden Acre Estates, they actually went out of the way to move me in, when actually in my head I'm like, it's not out of my way, it's just so that we can get it over the line and get it done with.
Yeah. And that's the difference. I think independence, and that it's your job, it's your life. If you're not doing it, you know, culture is a top-down thing. If you want to hide away or not do appointments, expect the team to do the same thing, expect the business to fail. It's I mean, I don't know if you guys have the same at home. The only problem I have with this business is that it's 24/7. And so, you know, you're never not, you know, day off or whatever, you're still on the phone or you're still doing whatever you need to do. And I think that can be quite difficult for the spouse.
Yes, definitely.
In my world anyway. Right. I do like to end a podcast talking about my wife being pissed off at me being on the phone. That is absolutely the way to end a podcast. Thanks, guys. Good stuff, good content, good conversation. Makai, we've got our next subject matter definitely for next time you're on. Soul selling rights and social media, and how those two worlds are going to come together is definitely an interesting topic. Thank you guys for coming on. Really good stuff. I was going to tell you when it'll be out, but anyone listening will know when it's out because you're already listening. For us 4, it's in a few weeks. I don't know what the date is. We're just going to say bye. We'll hand over to Watkins. He's going to give you his weekly Watkins whimsy. So that's very easy for me to say. That's why he called it that. And we'll just say bye and see you soon. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
One day you'll wake up and there won't be enough time to do the things you're always going to do.